Hey, what's up, horror fans? This is Vincent DiSanti, and I'd like to welcome you to another edition of The Ghost Files. Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Friday, October 10th. And it is time for The Ghost Files. Welcome back to the Womp Stomp Films YouTube channel. I'd like to welcome everybody in the chat in a little bit, but it is good to be back. It's good to be here. If you haven't yet and you're new to the channel, please subscribe to this channel. If you are not new here and you have subscribed, you can also like this video. Go ahead and do that right now. Help get some engagement. Spread the link around. Let's get some people in the chat tonight so we can have a nice debate about Friday the 13th. We had a lot of stuff going on social media the last couple of days with Friday the 13th fans talking about a lot of the news that dropped this week. And that's essentially what we are going to cover for the heart of the show, is everything that was released this week from the Jason universe, what is coming from the Jason universe, specifically the new movie and the new game that everyone is highly anticipating and wants to get their grubby little mitts on so they can watch and play and do all the things with Jason Voorhees. But first, let's check in with the chat. Let's see who's hanging out this week. And I do apologize in advance if my signal drops out or anything like that. I'm still on Wi-Fi. I got to figure out how to hook up a hard line down here. So if I'm laggy or if anything's happening like that, and if anything's happening with commercials tonight, do let me know. I'll try to change the settings midstream so it's not as crazy. there were new settings this week, so I just tried something, and we'll see how it works. But let's jump into the chat. I did see a bunch of people in here. Alley Girl is here. She is doing well, as she has told Steve DMV, who's hanging out. I think Crystal Lake finishes soon. Yes, we will talk about that tonight. I see my good buddy Tyler Adams tonight. Big thing here. Hey, I know you guys usually do other kinds of horror fan films. However, there is one analog horror series I think you guys should make a fan film of. It's called The Man in the Suit. Well, if you email me at wompstompfilms@gmail.com, I'll check it out and see what that's all about. We got Bactrition 393. Batterish, little critter, love it. Hello, everyone. Let's go back to the front, because we had Bucky up front, who, when New Line gives the permission to work on it, that's not necessarily true, but we'll get into that. Lamontre is here always. One of the first comments, Lamontre was up here, along with my good friend Greg Dockenrocker Peck. Good to see you, buddy. Sydney the Ghost Killer's in. Wow, look at that. Are you more Halloween or Friday the 13th better Tommy Jarvis or Laurie Strode? And is your Tommy Jarvis your favorite horror protagonist or someone else? Tommy Jarvis, Friday the 13th by a million miles. Has Tom Matthews seen Scarface Hot Fuzz, and has he ever met Jamie Lee and Nev Campbell? I'm sure he's let Jamie Lee and Nev Campbell at some point. I'm sure at a convention. I'm not sure about the Hot Fuzz thing, though. Let's see. Chuck Phelps is in the chat, and Billy Judd is in the chat. Twisted Emo is in the chat. What's up, man? Jacob Thompson, there he is. Bonjour, my friend. Buongiorno. Somebody was just commenting on something in French today, so that's funny that you were doing it. Maybe it was you. Michael J's in the chat. What's up? Crafter Films is here. All right, good. Gory Tiger. Look at that. We got Matt Van Voorhees. This is good. This is a nice little chat. Wow, look, almost 40 people already. This is a good Friday. It's good to be back on Friday. I know last week I was here on Tuesday for the launch of Ghost Chicken, which is going pretty well. We'll do some updates in that in a little bit. Let's see. I think I grabbed everybody. If I didn't say hello, I'm sorry. I'll say hello later. Tonight's format for the show is I'm going to do what I normally do. I'm going to do my introductions for the updates, update you on everything that's going on with me and Womp Stomp Films. And then we're also going to dive into some stuff about Friday the 13th. While I'm doing that, I'm going to have to be switching media around. So I'm not necessarily going to be able to see any chats or any questions. So if you do have an important question or you do want it to stand out, do post a super chat so I can see it later on in the program when we go through the questions and answers section. It's easier for me to pick out, and it also supports the channel. So anything you do does help support Womp Stomp Films, and it's greatly appreciated ahead of time. So with that said, let me hop into the news. This week, let's see, I got to open up my little media assets. Did I not turn on my Bing? And there we go. And then tonight, right above my head right here is we're going to have, I guess it's right there. There we go. We're going to have the QR code for the Ghost Chicken campaign right above my head all night. But starting things off tonight, tomorrow, I will be in New Jersey for Fur and Fright at the Blairstown Diner in Blairstown, New Jersey, where they shot the original Friday the 13th. I'll be there as a guest of my good friend, South Jersey Jason. Brian will be there. So I'm going to be there. Lauren Marie Taylor is going to be there. It's going to be a great time. I believe that there is going to be a pet adoption and a pet costume contest. So definitely check that out. And then afterwards, there is another event happening from 6 to 10 that is going to be more of a haunt experiences, which is going to be really, really cool. I'm not going to be able to make that. I have to drive back to Massachusetts for some travel that I need to do on Sunday. I actually got to catch a plane at 5:30 in the morning the next day. So it's a 4-hour drive for me, so it's going to be pretty fun. So I hope if you are in the South or in the Northwest Jersey area that I will see you there. Definitely come out and support. I do have an announcement that Monster Expo that was supposed to take place October 18th and 19th in Taunton, Massachusetts has been canceled or postponed for now. There will be another event coming up later on, I think either later this year or early next year. And if you have tickets to that or you're a vendor to that, Monster Expo will be reaching out and either refunding you or transferring your credit to the next Monster Expo, which they were very fun events. I'm not sure what happened. Things do happen, but they just weren't going to be ready in time, I think, for next week. So that's going to get postponed. That's kind of a bummer, but it happens. In Womp Stomp news, Ghost Chicken is doing pretty well. We're up to 35% funded on Kickstarter after roughly a third of the way through the campaign. So we're basically right on track. We raised another 10% this week after raising roughly 30%, 25 to 30% last week. So if you haven't supported Ghost Chicken yet and you've been waiting, now is definitely the time. As we're moving forward, what we're marching towards is that 50%, we're going to unlock a brand new page with some cool artwork by Samuel Giannicola. The artwork is really, really cool. I have the page already. You can kind of see it blurred out right there, but it's got some really great stuff on it. We would love to share that with you. We can only do that if we get to 50%. So if you haven't supported Ghost Chicken yet, hit this link above my head. Go get your book. We have the hardcovers. If you're a Never Hike Alone backer, if you go into some of the updates, you have some links to discounts. If you want a secret perk, you can email me at wompstompfilms@gmail.com. I will build a secret perk for you. Two things that haven't been selected yet are the two cameos that are in the book. So there is a main cast cameo where you will have multiple pages of dialogue that is available, and there's also a little co-star cameo where you will have at least a page or two of your character, which will be drawn to your likeness and named after you, will be in the book and appear in Ghost Chicken, the book itself. Definitely want to check that out. And we just don't want to hit our goal, which is $10,000. We want to surpass it. So if you join our campaign and you share stuff around, you're going to help everybody get more stuff. At $20,000, everyone gets a Ghost Chicken pin. At $40,000, we're going to give everyone bookmarks and magnets. At $60,000, we're going to unlock and release a radio play of the entire Ghost Chicken script to our backers based on an animatic that has been in the works for quite some time. It's back in the works now with a good friend of mine, Evan Menick, who's cutting it right now. So that will be really, really cool. But if we hit 80,000, we're going to show you the entire storyboard animatic. Remember when we showed you Ghost in the Fog and we showed you all the cool storyboard animatic stuff for that? Same thing here, except you're going to get the full Ghost Chicken experience, which is a 25-minute short film. It's really, really cool. And if we hit $100,000, that's telling us you guys really want Ghost Chicken. And we're going to give everybody on the campaign a 10% discount on the upcoming Ghost Chicken animated film campaign, which we would love to have you all there for as well. So if you haven't supported Ghost Chicken yet, please do that now. Let's get to 50% before we get to October 15th. That's sort of the goal. And that would really help the campaign along and then push us into the final stretch, which we want to not only hit our goal, but surpass it. So let's get into tonight's business. The Jason universe has been very, very busy this week. There were two major announcements that are obvious that everyone heard. The first is that Jason was released into Call of Duty: The Haunting, where we do have our Jason universe Jason in this world of Call of Duty. He was also released into Fortnite, which I'll show you some stuff from that as well. That was sort of the big news for them this week, which is really, really cool. I just wanted to kind of look at it real quick. I'm not a huge gamer, but I do think it's cool that Jason is now making his way back into different video games. This is something that I really believe in, that if Friday the 13th wants to continue to connect with, younger audiences, it's going to have to find ways into the system. And this is a great way to do it. I mean, Call of Duty is probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest game out there, along with Fortnite. So to have a Jason skin during Halloween is really, really cool. I'm glad that it's there. And I have to say, you guys know I've been sort of a not a huge fan of the Sweet Revenge Jason universe kind of look since the beginning. We've kind of been like nitpicking the mask, but in video game form, it fits. I mean, I feel like that is a decent representation of Jason right there. I'm a big fan of the costume. Obviously, it's got the Ghost Jason look, but the mask doesn't look half bad here. And I always thought that, like, it looked like a video game rendering, which I always thought was odd. It's like it kind of had that like GTA look. So seeing Jason like this doesn't really, it doesn't really set me off in any way. I actually think he looks good. I think he's well represented. We have another shot here when it switches over eventually. There he is. So we got this one, which reminds me of a shot that we did for Never Hike in the Snow, which is really funny. And someone pointed out that it's funny that the guy's wearing a beanie and a backpack, which gives it sort of a a Never Hike Alone vibe, which I thought was really, really kind of cool. Jason also made his way into Fortnitemares, which you can see him right there to the right. I would say the same thing about this costume. I guess I didn't do I didn't really do a a single one because I'm going to go to this next one. It's going to kind of be funny, but I just thought that this was funny. Here's a good look at the Jason, and here's a shot of me in the costume. It's funny to me that I have a feeling that like either these photos are being pulled in for reference and somehow these things, or we're just kismet and we're just onto something 8 years ago that is now finally being able to put in the official realm. But again, like for Fortnite, you know what I mean? Like it's got a look. I think that Jason is a Fortnite character represented like that works. And so the first phase of Jason Universe that we have been sort of privy to with this design that was originally released, the one that was released with the logo, the one that came out and we saw it, and Sweet Revenge and all of those things. I really feel like this is a phase one of the oncoming of and the return of Friday the 13th and Jason Voorhees. And so there's been some hit and misses. I'm not a huge fan of the Jason not Rising. I love the Jason Rising look, the Sweet Revenge look. I wasn't necessarily in love with it. This I can get down with this. Like I can get down with this. I can get down with this in Call of Duty. When it comes to an actual Friday the 13th video game, which will be in a little bit, I want more detail. I want specific Jasons. This isn't necessary. I mean, I'm sure this Jason will end up in that game, but we definitely want traditional Jasons in that, and maybe some other alternate designs like Ghost Jason. And things like that. Speaking of the video game, there is one more thing that got released this week that was kind of cool. Here's a sneak preview of the Savini Jason, I believe at New York Comic Con this week. Coming from NECA, Q2 of 2026. So here's a little preview of that. He's got the little fire on him. Pretty cool little setup here. NECA always does great work. It will be cool to have that out. So that's basically what we have seen over the last week. That's the big news. And so everybody's been talking about Friday the 13th. And of course, the subject came up of, I guess I got to switch that around. Let me see. Maybe make myself smaller. Get smaller, Vin. No. All right. So it's not that quite big. So I didn't size it right. But anyway, Friday the 13th. When is it? Oh, what the heck? I didn't take that off. That whole time you've just been sitting there, Matt. Thanks, buddy. So anyway, back to this. So Friday the 13th, everybody's wondering is like new game, new movie. This week there was another announcement, and we're going to get to that right now, which looked like this. Exclusive Jason Voorhees is going to appear in several new projects in the future, says producer Robert M. Barsimian. And then I took this right from the Jason Universe Facebook page tonight. It says, welcome to the next chapter of Jason the Universe. Now, I don't know how much I've talked about this before, and I'm going to be very vague about these things because I want to maintain certain relationships and being able to have communications with some people at the Jason Universe that I was able to meet at the Sweet Revenge premiere party, where I got some really great info along with Jason Parker from Friday the 13th franchise.com. The both of us, had a chance to talk with, the leaders of the Jason Universe, get some answers on some things that, all fans are wondering about. Some of that stuff was off the record. I can't really share any of that stuff. But what I can say is that this is on par with what I've heard. Was what we just experienced is part of a long-term plan. There's not something that they're going to jam everything within like the first, the first year that we've been in the thing. It all wasn't just going to come rushing out at once. This is all very meticulously planned. There's lots of things that we're rolling out. There's things that make sense a little bit more now that we see Call of Duty, now that we see Fortnite, now that we saw Sweet Revenge and we had Halloween Horror Nights and I believe, and the Savini Jason. So we see that is sort of like phase one. Those were the things that were announced this year. Those are the things that did take place. They were all activated. They all hit the stream. And what we are starting to do is transition into year 2 of the Jason Universe. We're going to shift into next, which is basically Crystal Lake will be the next big thing that is going to take the forefront of what the Jason Universe is up to, what Friday the 13th is doing in the space, while other things are in development. Now, a lot of people last week, a lot of like Bloody Disgusting and a lot of other news trades really went into like new movies coming, new games coming, and really kind of put on, I feel like, a certain tone that would it was in a tone that would make fans feel like this thing is right around the corner. But in the heart of all of that, as all of that was getting spread, my good buddy Jason Parker at Friday the 13th franchise.com tweeted this straight up: don't expect to see a new game or a film released until 2027. I seconded this and kind of nodded my head because I know that there is a long-term plan in place for both the game and the film. Now, what has been told to fans is that things are in development. This is true. What hasn't necessarily, but things are in development, but they are still deciding a lot of things. And so while things are being decided, even when those decisions are made, there is a lot of time that has to take place between when decisions are made, things are actioned, and then things go through development. Now, we know with a game, games don't get turned around within a year. Development on the game and active building of the game would have to have started many, many years ago in order for it to be ready this year or next year. Look at, GTA. How long has that been in development? Talking about now, it's a $6 billion game. Is Friday the 13th, the game, going to be a $6 billion game? No. But what I can say is that it is going to be at a higher level than the previous Friday the 13th game. The target that they're aiming for is something that is a little bit of a higher tier. Not to say that the Friday the 13th game wasn't great. I love the Friday the 13th game, but to hear that they seem to be investing a little bit more into the game this time, there is more backing for the game this time. I won't say the number, but when I heard that number, I got very, very excited. And there are lots of things that number allows this game to do that the original Friday the 13th game could never really do. It could never really achieve that. I wish the original Friday the 13th and Gun Media was given this type of budget and given the time to go and develop everything that they were doing. Now that there is no longer fear of a lawsuit, what we can look forward to in the gaming realm is the fact that these things are going to come together with a well-rounded team that is going to have the funding to build the things that the fans want. Now, is that a guarantee that the game is going to be good? No, but it's good to know that the funding is in place to deliver a much more higher quality game with higher quality graphics. I believe whatever Harry Manfredini was working on, stuff that I worked on before, was concept stuff. And so I think that right now they're still in the conceptual phase of building out all the assets of the game. I don't know that specifically. I'm now making a guess and trying to fill in some gaps. But from what I understand, it wasn't as if Harry was working on finalized stuff that was kind of ready for shooting. It was early stuff to start kind of building the atmosphere of what they're about to build. So as far as the game goes, yeah, don't expect that till 2027. Now the film, same thing. This is not something that has been in active development. A production studio has not been chosen yet. No one has been deemed anything for Friday the 13th, a film yet. Those decisions are still being made. Why hasn't a decision been made yet? Very simple. They had Sweet Revenge this year, testing the waters with some of the things they were doing there. They had these 2 video game releases. They had Halloween Horror Nights, and they have that. The Jason universe is not a very large team. So there are 5 projects right there that have to be managed. To try and manage that on top of a movie, that is something that would not lead to very productive that wouldn't lead to a very productive schedule. So what you're seeing now is all of these activations have been activated. Now there is room on tables for these discussions to happen. There's something very important, like this came out this week. Let me pull over to this. Friday the 13th franchise. Let me just get that out of the way for myself. Most fans want a new movie. We understand that not everyone has enjoyed Blumhouse films, but Jason Blum can get a new film made, and let's see what he can do. And Jason Blum said that his ultimate goal is to be a horror producer on the new Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street. So if he still hopes that he can do that, that means no decisions have been made. But I do want to say this as a Friday the 13th fan, based on what I saw with Sweet Revenge and some of the information I found out down the line, was Blumhouse was the source that recommended Mike P. Nelson to do Sweet Revenge. And my message to Blumhouse would be, if you are going to get these rights, and if you do end up with these rights, Mike P. Nelson is not your guy. And I think Sweet Revenge kind of proved that. Sweet Revenge was a fine little vignette. It did its thing. It kind of felt like a fan film, but I don't feel like that was the tone atmosphere of what I want out of a brand new Friday the 13th. It definitely didn't touch any of the things that I really wanted to see, nor did I feel like it was hitting any of the tone or logic of what I think Jason should be in the future. Now, this is a very important context because this does bring me to something that was very active this week. So a film's not coming till 2027, maybe longer. A game's not coming till 2027, maybe longer. There's a lot of time to fill in between. And so let's do a little share. I didn't set this up before, but I see it right here. So let's look at this. This is coming in here. So it's been 16 years since the Friday the 13th reboot, and Jason Voorhees is finally coming back to the big screen and our video game consoles. Now, this is something that was released, and this is what the Jason universe shared today. 16 years after the critically... Oh, that's the other one. I'm actually sharing the wrong one. That's funny. Remove, and then present or invite. Nope. Show style. Oh, geez. What have I done to myself? There we go. Sorry, guys. I'm just... yeah, that's not what I picked. Okay, there we go. That's what I wanted. Here we go. So, horror fans should expect to see a Jason Voorhees return in uninspected ways over the coming years as producer teases more projects beyond a new movie and video game. Haha. So, Jason Voorhees is set to come back for an upcoming new Friday the 13th movie, which will be, wait for it, the 13th film in the horror saga. And that's not all. As producer Robert Barsimian teases more stories and surprising turns to come. We are actively working on a new movie, which will be the 13th in the franchise, as well as a new video game, says Barsimian, in the new issue of SFX magazine, which features Welcome to Derry, yada, yada, yada. The producer also teases that Jason will return in other unexpected ways, and now we can't wait to see what the iconic slasher is up to. For now, we know that the iconic mask is going through a redesign. Jason had a number of looks across 12 films, so we wanted to pull inspiration for a few of his iconic. We're not going to get into the look of the mask and Greg Nicotero stuff this week, so we're not going to get into that. So we're going to get back into, let's stop looking at that. I'm back. So we're going to go back to this. And so what does that mean? What does that mean? What that means is that if we're going to have to wait till 2027 in order to get a film and a game, or if it even extends beyond that, in the year 2026 and in the year 2027, you're going to see a few more activations pop up and other types of collabs that I think the Jason universe is going to explore to see where Jason is viable on the market. Maybe more commercials, maybe more vignettes, maybe some comic books, maybe some animation stuff. Who knows what they're going to dive into? But from what I understood with the conversation that I had with the Jason universe is that they're open to all ideas. It's just a matter about the timing, who's involved, and what type of budget it has, and all of those types of things, and when they're ready to do it. But we do know that the film is on the horizon, that the game is on the horizon. Now, the game I feel really confident about because, like I said, the budget is there and it's there. But the thing that I want to bring out is this little message. Beware the Ides of Friday the 13th, 2009. Oh my God, my background won't even load. Here we go. Let's try that again. There it is. Beware. We've been here before, folks. And for those of you who don't remember, who weren't there in 2009 for this, there was a time when Friday the 13th was struggling. Jason Goes to Hell came out in 1993, and a film wasn't made for 10 more years. The film that came out 10 years later was Jason X. So we get Jason X, that almost kills the franchise. Freddy versus Jason comes back, revitalizes everyone's Jason love, and then we get it announced. Platinum Dunes, Paramount Pictures, and Bay Films get the rights to Friday the 13th, and they are going to make a new franchise worth of films, starting off with Friday the 13th, 2009. Now, the other day, there was a meme going around that says, share your, I'm just going to show it. this meme was going around, which was, what's an opinion of Friday the 13th franchise that will have you like this? And I shared my most, my hottest take, which is Friday the 13th, 2009 killed the franchise way before the lawsuit. Now, this got 31,000 views, and I got a ton of negative feedback from this. It is a hot take. It is what I expected. And people came after me, including my good friend at Wolfman's Got Nards, Barry, who basically told me that Friday the 13th wasn't a failure, and that it was a good movie and that it was actually a success. Now, I want to dive into this because, like I said, beware, because we were at this precipice many, many years ago where all of a sudden a new rights system was set up. Somebody was stepping in to get the rights to Friday the 13th to build a franchise worth of films. Now, the first film got a $20 million budget, which was 5 times or 4 times more than any previous solo Friday the film ever had. And it went on to make no sequels. It led to no franchise. Now, when they purchased those rights, they did not do that with the intention of making just one film in 10 years. That was not the goal. And what happened is that, and this is why I'm not worried about a film taking a little bit longer to produce, because of this. Friday the 13th, 2009, in my opinion, is a rushed piece of shit. The script doesn't make any sense. The story makes no sense. It goes in all different places. It contradicts itself 1,000 times. And it takes all these iconic moments and just sweeps them under the rug so it can focus on stupendous tits and other things that don't matter to franchise fans who were really enveloped in the Friday the 13th franchise. It also didn't set up a stable foundation of facts and rules that were going to be lived through multiple films. So when it came time to make a sequel, there was no sequel to make because there was no foundation to jump off of. And so what happened with 2009 was, because it was such a mediocre, sort of like not changing anything, repeating a lot of the past, it didn't really pick a new path. It just sort of retreaded over the old notes and played the old tunes. It was like the new band's coming back and they're going to play the hits, but they don't play the hits like they used to do. Even they got all brand new equipment. It didn't feel the same because we've heard these songs before. We needed new music. And we did get new music, and it sucked. That Steve Jablonsky score is probably the worst score I've ever heard in my entire life for a Friday the 13th film. It was the exact opposite of what a Friday the 13th film should be. And so what I need the Jason universe to do is, no matter who they pick, no matter which way they go, and this is something that was told to me, and I will say this as part of the discussion that we had, is there is no intention for the Jason universe to create one film. They want to create a franchise, and they're looking 2, 3, 4 films ahead, and that is a good thing. That is something that Friday the 13th, 2009 did not do at all. It screwed up Pamela's origin story. It screwed up what Jason was, because at one point he's human, and then he comes back from the dead at the end. And then where does it go from there? Where does that story actually go now that Jason has been uncovered and found out? It makes no sense. And why did Clay and Whitney drag him down to the lake and throw him in the water at the end of the movie? Again, it makes no sense. That movie made no sense. It was a series of cool ideas that didn't, make anything. So what happened after this film released? Well, there's a lot of revisionist history with a lot of people who are coming out saying, well, I love the movie and I think it's the best in the franchise and I think it's great. Well, that's good. Well, guess what? It's the year 2025. Your opinion today doesn't matter, because in 2009, it was critically panned. It was panned by the fans. And even though it opened with a record $40 million in opening weekend, it only ended up mustering another $20 million in the box office for however many weeks, which was not good. It ended up grossing about $92 million worldwide. It didn't even cross $100 million on a $20 million budget, 19 to be exact. Now, you're saying, Vin, $19 million. That's not too bad. Well, guess what? It wasn't just $19 million. $19 million was the shooting budget. The P&A budget on a conservative level was $25 million. And I'm telling you, anyone who was around during 2009 knows that marketing was everywhere. It was in 3,100 in theaters, which means the P&A had to be somewhere north of $35 to $40 million. So now take $40 million, stack 19 on top. Okay. So now that is what, $69 million? No, that's $59 million. I'm sorry. I'm bad at math. $59 million. Okay. Well, Vin, they made $91 million, $92 million. They're good, right? No. Distribution companies and theaters take half of that. So what they did make was $45 million. If the film made money, it barely made money. It either broke even, it either lost money or broke even or barely made money. And then it didn't make any recoup money till the aftermarket, which happened about a year later. So what happens here? Now, was it a failure? No, but it didn't hit a home run. It swung for the fence and it hit a dribbler down the line and beat out a single and barely made it, barely got a hit. And what did that do? It ruined the franchise and it killed it for 8 years. Not because, it wasn't that they weren't trying to make new movies, but what it did is it created doubt. It created doubt in the franchise. It created doubt in the property. Why are we going to spend $20 million on these projects when they can't even break $100 million? When Jason Blum is now establishing Blumhouse with Paranormal Activity, making millions of dollars with films that cost under $1 million. He has a model where he doesn't spend more than $5 million on a movie and he makes hundreds of millions of dollars. That's the type of gross income and profit that we want to do. So when a film makes $92 million, that's gross. Profit is what it makes after it pays everything back, including P&A. Not to mention the fact that Paramount, Bay Films, and Platinum Dunes had to do a rights exchange and get the rights back from New Line and Warner Brothers in order to make this project happen. So there's also money, time, and investment that's put into that as well. So you got to count all of that when it comes into it. And so when they put all that time, they give up all those rights and they do those things, they expect it to take the place and make the money of something that they've invested in. Now, someone accused me today of not knowing how the industry works. And I just want to say to that person, fuck you, because I know exactly how the industry works because I worked in the industry and I've been working in the industry for over 17, 18 years. I was in LA. I left my little hometown. I didn't become the best filmmaker of my little hometown. I went to a huge place where everybody is, and I actually worked in the industry, and I worked with distributors on feature films that went to the theater. Okay, I know how this works. And so 2009 was not a success. Whether you think it's a good movie doesn't count here. It doesn't matter what your opinion is. It didn't do what it was supposed to do, which was launch a brand new franchise. So I would like to avoid that this time. So whatever this first film is, whoever gets this first film, one, better be a competent director who loves Friday the 13th and understands the fans and understands what the old films were trying to say, if they were trying to say anything at all, or glean something from the original films to say, hey, here's really where the franchise sings. It's not about just getting teens in the woods and doing it. There has to be a little bit more. There has to be a little bit more care, and there has to be a little bit more atmosphere, and it really has to feel like an old Friday the 13th film. The other thing it has to do is it has to think about the future, and it has to think about the past. It has to think about its foundation to understand that it has to build multiple films that are going to connect. Because if these films in the modern age are just wild mishmash of stuff that doesn't make any sense, it's going to have the same effect. You're going to release a film, it's going to get a lukewarm response, and then no one's going to want to see a sequel to it. And no one's going to want to see, a trilogy or a franchise of that. And so what happened with 2009 was, because there wasn't confidence in that storyline and that take was denied a sequel. And what happened after that? It went into development hell. And so you had different people in that point where instead of just creating something that was great, instead of just creating something that was successful and that, really took their time and like really fine-tooth comb and went through the project and really wowed fans, it got put into this place where it was no longer seen as a viable IP. And for years, it struggled to get back to the screen because no one had any confidence in it. And that's why I say Friday the 13th, 2009 ruined the franchise before the lawsuit ever did, because there wasn't enough confidence to get a film back into the theaters. And by the time they almost got it back into the theaters, they were so hesitant about it that the second that Rings didn't perform, they pulled the rug on it. And that wouldn't have happened if 2009 hadn't suffered so hard from the mistakes that it made as a film. Now, if you just want to sit there and suck that thing up like it's a cheeseburger from McDonald's and you don't care what's inside of it, you just want your burger and you want to have fun, That's fine for you. But that's what got us here. That's what got us Friday the 13th diabetes. That's why we couldn't get out on the track and play with the other, boys and ghouls to make horror films, because we were there fucking having to eat a snack because our blood sugar was low. So that's where those decisions left us. And that's what I want to avoid going forward. And that's why I have a little bit of confidence here to know that there's no rush to get a film out, because when Platinum Dunes got those rights, they rushed to a film. They wrote that script, they got into production. I remember it happened pretty fast. I hope that they go through a rigorous writing session. I hope they go through rigorous development and they really poke holes and figure out what their tone is, what their logic is, what their reality is, what the story is, what happened to Jason. It doesn't have to connect to Crystal Lake, the TV show. It doesn't have to connect to anything else. It just has to be its own thing. I also hope they really go the Revenant route, because so far, everything that I've seen in the last 2 decades with people trying to resurrect Jason is always like, we're going to get back to the human Jason, which is such a bad idea. Human Jason sucks, okay? Human Jason is nerfed. He can't do all the things that Jason does. He can't get shot and keep moving forward. He can't get buried in the earth and come back up. He can't get skewered and pull himself off the skewer and kill somebody else. The thing that makes Jason scary is that no matter what you do to him, he just keeps coming. A human grounded Jason can't do that. Eventually, something will kill that Jason. And if he survives too many things that no one would actually survive, that just means he's supernatural. But if he does that and then you don't call him supernatural, that's just called bullshit. That's just called bad filmmaking. That's just called Cartman playing superhero with the kids on South Park and changing his power every time somebody trumps over him. It's just bad logic, and it pulls people out of stories. Give people the Jason that we want. Give us the Revenant undead Jason. It doesn't have to be super, decomposed right away. He can decompose over time and get worse over the films. But spending time trying to come up with some idea about how Jason survived the drowning and didn't go back to his mom for 20 years, it's just a dumb storyline. And it's just something that you cannot get over. I can get over the fact that he grew a little bit, after he got resurrected after his mother's death. What I can't understand is how he managed to go all those years without ever contacting his mother and letting her run around thinking that he was dead, and then watch her kill people and then finally step out after she got her head cut off. Didn't make a lot of sense. Which is another reason I hated 2009, because that's what they did in the Killer Cut. They didn't. And why is Jason a little boy in the Killer Cut? If he drowned in 57, why is he in the forest is still a little boy? Explain yourself, my friends. If you don't do that, it's just glossing over it. It's just glossing over it and expecting people to know the other movies and to fill in the gaps themselves, other than actually giving them a story that they can pay attention to. Also, I hope whoever shoots this new movie actually lights it correctly so we can actually see what's going on. So that's my little rant. And I really do believe that, with everything that's coming up, with Friday the 13th and the Jason universe, that fans might not want to hear that it's going to take a little bit longer to get done. But I just want to assure you that this is a good thing, because if they don't take their time and they rush themselves into production and they choose the wrong person or they choose the wrong script, like Marcus Nispel didn't want to direct Friday the 13th. Daniel Pearl, the DP of Friday the 13th, 2009, called Friday the 13th a piece of shit. And then they went out and made it with those two guys. The guy who didn't want to make Friday the 13th, didn't understand the lore at the time. And he's not a bad director. I love the TCM remake. I think that TCM remake is probably the best remake that has been made. That's how I feel about Mark Nispel. That's how I see Mark Nispel. I know, after reading a lot of the kind of post Friday the 13th fallout, was that Nispel really his heart wasn't in it. He didn't want to make another remake. He made Pathfinder. It didn't do well, and they shoved him back in remake jail. And so, that wasn't where he wanted to be. He tried his best, but he doesn't know, he wouldn't know that Jason wouldn't put his mother's head in a fucking bathroom when he lives in the ground. You know what I mean? There would be a shrine somewhere else, not in the bathroom where anybody could walk in and find it. You know what I mean? If the cops are walking around, Camp Crystal Lake every now and then just to kind of keep check on him, and they can't find him because he's under the camp, he's not going to leave mom's head in a hole in the wall. That doesn't make any sense. Okay. It doesn't make any sense. Stop. Make it make sense. So that's, so that's basically what I got to say about that. But like I said, it's good thing that this could take a year, 2 years to get through development, because that means it will go through the necessary checks and balances to be not only a great film, but a great trilogy. It'll be a great franchise. And that's what fans want. We don't want one film. We want this franchise to come back and be a staple of the Halloween season, of the horror universe. Jason is a key contributor to the modern horror world, and him not participating in the last decade and a half has done detrimental damage to the Friday the 13th franchise. When we had Friday the 13th in 2009, it was the number one horror franchise of all time, highest grossing horror franchise. It had $500 million that it had raised. And guess what? No other movie released after that. So what happened? The Conjuring overtook it. Saw overtook it. Halloween overtook it. It's not even in the top 20 anymore. There's literally not even in the top 20. It overtook it. So many franchises are overtaking Jason. And as a fan, this is like being a fan of the New England Patriots or the Boston Red Sox or the New York Yankees and watching them just lose after years of dominance. You know what I mean? This literally feels like being a Patriots fan before Drake May came along, which was like after watching years and years of dominating the competition, of going out there and being the number. Because in 2009, you couldn't get anyone to say that. The basic consensus was Halloween had the best film, but Friday the 13th was the best franchise. Friday the 13th has fallen off that map now. The goal of the Jason universe should be to get to the top of that mountain again. Same thing with the game. Right now we have Dead by Daylight leading the way for horror games and asymmetrical horror, multiplayers. Let's have a new Friday the 13th game knock that motherfucker right off the pedestal and take the top spot. That's what I want. I want some competition. I want Jason Universe to get out there and take Jason's big old boot and shove it up its ass to the competitors and show them who the best slasher in the horror universe is. It's not fucking Art the Clown. It's not Michael Myers. It's not Leatherface. It's not any of them. It's Jason Voorhees. And that's what the Jason Universe really has to step up and show the horror world, is that they're going to put together the right team and the right, just everything, so that when Friday the 13th steps back out on the scene, it's not just another Friday the 13th film. It does what Never Hike Alone did. It shows up on the scene and just kicks everyone in the chin and says, look at what we are. Look at what we've done. Buckle up. You're in for a ride. And hopefully it starts with Crystal Lake. I think if I read a cryptic tweet from Jason the other day, is that he said something about March 13th, 2026. That could be our launch date for Crystal Lake, for the Crystal Lake TV series. The one thing I would say that I think the Jason universe fumbled, sorry, I wanted to bring this up before. This has to do with Fortnite. I actually saw a post from Fortnite tonight that said that Jason was actually supposed to go into Fortnite on June 13th. And for some reason, they pulled it back to make room for Sweet Revenge, which I think was a mistake. I honestly think that if they had released Jason to Fortnite on June 13th, on his birthday, that would have been a huge way to celebrate his birthday. That would have been a great thing that would have garnered a lot of attention, more than Halloween Horror Nights. Maybe that was the problem. Maybe it was because it was going to be more than Halloween Horror Nights. It was going to be more than Sweet Revenge. Maybe it was going to draw that much attention. But I think that would have been the right attention, because that would have been the springboard to then put Halloween Horror Nights and Sweet Revenge and get people excited. They would have been playing with Jason, and then Sweet Revenge would have come up, and then they would have saw Fortnite Jason and Sweet Revenge, and then they would have saw that Fortnite Jason's going to be at Halloween Horror Nights, and all these kids that would have been playing with Jason all summer would have been rushing to those things, and I think that would have helped get more views towards Sweet Revenge. But Halloween Horror Nights seems to be kicking ass. So congratulations on that, because that's been voted like the best horror house at both Orlando and Los Angeles. So, or Universal Studios. So that's really, really cool. That happened. But I think that with Sweet Revenge, I think the views, I don't even know if it hit 1 million views yet, but I think if they had Fortnited that earlier, I think Sweet Revenge would have hit with a little bit more impact. I think it would have helped. I'm not sure why they held that back. So that was kind of an odd thing. But we're in the comments now. I am all the way down the bottom. I have this guy right here as my good buddy. Honestly, as much as I love DBD, it really does need a competitor because it is honestly awful to play right now, and they aren't going to do anything about it because there's no competition. Exactly. Nobody wants to play an iconic character that answers to some shitty fucking game character that they have, or whatever the fog is, or putting people on hooks. That game mechanic sucks. Okay. That is so boring. I remember the one time I played it, I was like, this is lame. That's all it is. That's like the only way to describe Dead by Daylight is lame. Yeah, is it fun to run around in the costumes of your favorite characters? I'm sure, but when you can't do what that character actually does, and you have to like, go do something else because of the game mechanics work that way, it's not fun. People want to kick people's heads off. You know what I mean? They want to chop people in half. They want to do some nasty things. And that's what the new Friday the 13th game should do. I love this. Yeah. F. Kruger, Myers, and Chucky. Jason is our dude now. Exactly. They've all had their renaissance. Chucky had his TV show and a new movie reboot. Halloween had a trilogy that came out. Leatherface has been having all sorts of movies come out over the years. They had that one on Netflix a couple of years ago. They had, the young Leatherface. They had, Do Your Thing, Cuz Leatherface. All of these different things over the years. And no matter how bad those movies were, they always got a sequel and they're going to make another one. Jason has to show up. This is the Royal Rumble of horror icons, guys. Like, we need to see Jason show up. I don't care if he's first in the ring, but he's going to toss everyone off that top rope and he is going to claim, the Royal Rumble. He's going to be king of the horror ring. And that's what I want. I'm actually going to Halloween Horror Nights in like 2 weeks. Well, I hope you have a good time. You should have a great time doing that. Let me see. We need to know if Paul and Muffin are toast. Paul and Muffin are toast. They are toast. I got that from Amy Steele. I wanted to call her Ginny, but Amy Steele. The 2000 film might have copied the Simon Hawke novelization of Part 2 with the scene of Jason seeing his mom in the beginning. Yeah, but how does that make sense? How does that make sense? He would have been 32 years old or 34 years old or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, that's just, I don't get it. Where does Jason go? I like Jason being dead in the lake. So we're basically not going to see a game or movie for at least 2 years. We're just going to be stuck with DLC and other games and other properties that they're going to sell us. Here's the thing. There's lots of opportunities in there for other short films. There's comic books. There's, other avenues for Jason to come back. And I think that fans should be excited about that. I want to see Jason involved in a lot of different things. I want to see Jason novels. I want to see, more experiences pop up. I want to see more screening events pop up. I mean, this Friday the 13th 3D screening thing that I keep hearing about now that it's been like polarized 3D. I've been hearing lots of great things. I think they got to get that back into theaters, stuff like that. I think it needs to happen too. Need a better score too. The reboot music sucks. Yeah, no, definitely that. Hopefully they bring back, I don't know if they're going to bring back Harry, but they need to bring back somebody who can capture that essence. Let me see. But the rest of your take were the series ago, and I agree. Actually, I disagree with you a little bit, Vincent. From what I remember, the Killed sequel for Friday the 13th 9 was the Ring sequel, or was the Conjuring on one of those types. So Rings was the nail in the coffin. But 2009 not being a good enough film and not performing well enough is what opened up that opportunity. So an example would be, and I'm going to use sports examples because I'm a stupid jock. But basically what 2009 was a fumble. It was an early drive in the game. It looked like they were driving towards the end zone, and then they fumbled the ball. And then they were down by one score, and then for the rest of the time couldn't get back in the end zone. Does that make sense? Like, they had to settle for a field goal. The other teams all scored touchdowns. And in the meantime, they were stuck on the sideline. They couldn't score points. And so because they fumbled, it opened up the opportunity for all of those other bad things to happen. It set them up to have that, that lack of trust, that lack of confidence. You know what I mean? They weren't out there in confidence anymore. They were like, oh, we can't do in 2009. That didn't perform well enough. And the other thing too was that even though it performed well in the first week, what the studio was thinking, it's like, but the actual performance of it on the, as the things, the word of mouth and, the extended weekends that it was in the theaters, it did not perform well. That performance was the performance that was going to carry over into the next release, which is why what the studio told them to do was reduce the budget. So we can get into that a little bit, which is the things that ended up kind of really tripping them up along the way, because Friday the 13th didn't like establish okay, look, we know what we're doing, and obviously we have a great system here, so don't mess with it. Let us just keep making movies. That's what happened to Halloween. That's not the treatment Friday the 13th got. So what Friday the 13th got was like, okay, so you no longer justify your $20 million budget. We want you to think about doing found footage because that's a cheaper way to do it. So they had to go and they had to research found footage. They brought in David Bruckner. David Bruckner developed it with a writer. I don't know who that was. It's never really been named. But that version of the script got turned over to Nick Antosca later on down the line to get turned into the 3D version, which was going to go back. They finally convinced the studio, we want to do, let's do this gimmick. Let's do the 3D. We can get back, and that will justify the $20 million budget and put more people in the seats. And so they needed the gimmick of found footage. They needed the gimmick of 3D to get back. And so now they're playing with gimmicks again. And both of those did not get greenlit, partly because Brad Fuller didn't want to make a found footage movie. And he dragged his feet through that entire process until it switched over to 3D. And then the studio didn't want to make David Bruckner's 3D movie. So it went over to Aaron Guzanowski and Breck Eisner to go and pen the 2017 version that got shut down after Rings failed. Now, that was definitely a $20 million movie. And the studios were like, okay, we're going to dabble back into this world. We got Rings coming out. We got these other things coming out. And when Rings went out there and bombed, same thing with Nightmare on Elm Street. The remake hype was now at the end of it was basically at the end of its run. It had its height with Texas Chainsaw and Amityville and the Rob Zombie Halloweens. Even though they didn't do well, they made a lot of money. The remakes weren't making money anymore. And so Paramount and didn't see it as a viable option. Plus, Paramount was going to lose the rights to Friday the 13th in 2018. It was going to revert back to New Line. And so even if it was successful, they didn't want to create the one successful remake movie that comes out in that year, and then they have to hand over those rights and all of those following movies to New Line, who's going to take it away from them because they're not going to let them keep something that's that profitable. So yes, there are other factors that slowed down Friday the 13th and kept it going to the theater, but it all goes back to 2009 not being a well thought out movie and not landing with fans perfectly. Okay. The fans rebelled. I was in the forums. Okay. I defended 2009 for a while because I was like, oh, it's like the Rob story from part 4. And the pieces were there. It wasn't all quite there. And the more I watched that movie, the more I realized that no one was paying attention. They were all just playing a game of, oh my God, we're making a Friday the 13th movie. Isn't this so much fun? They weren't thinking like, why is the head in the bathroom? Why is Jason shooting bows and arrows at people on the lake, on a public lake, when everybody boat? Like, no one can boat on the lake. No one's allowed to go onto the lake. Then why did Trent and his family live down there and have a boat on the lake? They've had it all this year, and all of a sudden, Jason's launching arrows at people for no reason. I thought he wanted to be left alone. Really? I thought he was smart. Why is he stealing gas in the middle of the day? Why weren't these questions asked in the development room, in the writing room? They're easy solves, such easy solves to do, just to shift and make this a night scene, have this kind of work this way. There's so many ways that like, it felt like such a first draft that got shot. It's not even funny. And so by the time Friday the 13th shoots, it should be on draft 10. Okay, it should be on draft 11. They should go through and ask these important questions of why, how, and how does this, if you make a decision, how does that ripple all the way to 1957 or 1947, all the way back to Jason's, or 1946, all the way back to Jason's birth? Or if you change, like, come up with the entire timeline from Jason's conception all the way to when you want to go back to Jason X again. Figure out an entire timeline that goes there and just pick a point to start on the map and start telling the story from there. But know why decisions are being made, know why he's acting a certain way. Figure that out first. Don't rush into production. And so that's sort of like my feel on that. Let's see, Greg, what do you got here? I agree. 2009 was thrown together and we want something better than this time, longer lasting for the franchise. Exactly. We want something that can immediately demand a sequel from the studio. You know what I mean? Something that like it hits the box office. It's got multiple good weeks, and people are like, yes, we got to keep making these. This is going to be a moneymaker. You know what I mean? Not a, I don't know. That was pretty mediocre. And I got to say, that was the response from the Sweet Revenge. And so if we've learned anything from Sweet Revenge is that we need to not rush productions, because from what I understand, Sweet Revenge was like, they came up with the idea in May, they shot it in June, and they released it in August. So that's a pretty quick turnaround. And they didn't have a lot of time to really figure those things out. It was on the fly. Hey, it was a good dip toe in the water. But now it's time to really put on the big boy pants and start making some real decisions about this franchise and about what it's going to be. You have to look back at the previous 12 films. You got to say what worked, what didn't. What is the sweet spot? I honestly think the sweet spot is part 6. Part 6 with the tone of parts 1 and 2. 1 and 2 have characters that have stuff to do. You have a group of people rebuilding a camp, trying to get it open. You have counselors training to become counselors, getting too close to a place where they shouldn't be. The thing I loved about David Bruckner's script was that there were counselors from other camps who were curious about this place. What is this Friday the 13th Camp Crystal Lake place? Who is this Jason Voorhees? And what do? They get in canoes and they drift into the fog and they go out and they explore this mythic place that they've heard about because they're curious about it. And by doing that, they invoke the curse of Camp Crystal Lake to follow them back and start murdering people, which is all it really needs. But it needs a setup. It needs a good campfire story. The Wade campfire story in 2009 is atrocious. The way he tells it, there's no respect. There's no fear. There's no tension. The way Paul tells it in part 2, there's fear. There's tension. It sets up everything you're about to go through in part 2, and you feel it. And it's a scary little scene. 2009, it wasn't scary. Everything was trying to be a fucking joke. Every other goddamn line was a bad joke. No more bad jokes. Don't hire comedy writers. Have comedy in it. But don't write people who think they're funny who aren't funny, because we don't need any more of that. And they should have learned their lesson from Freddy versus Jason, because the humor in Freddy versus Jason wasn't funny either. Hey, Mitch the Ripper landed. Hey, what's up, buddy? The fake tits on everyone in the college kids was bad. Yeah, that was the other thing too. That was so gratuitous. Like, listen, I'm a guy's guy. Like, I appreciate the female body and all of those things and beautiful people. That's great. There's a line to be drawn here. I mean, we're all trying to watch a movie. This isn't a porno. You know what I mean? Like, it just seemed like 2009 was made by a bunch of 12-year-old boys who had never made a movie before. It's like, okay, we're going to have a bunch of big boobies. We're going to make a bunch of, what's the story? Oh, fuck the story. Put some big boobies in it. You know what I mean? Like, who are you? What are you, 12? Like, do better. Speaking of 12, no, I'm just kidding. I don't remember where I heard it, but Tom McLaughlin, however you spell it, wrote basically a fan film for Friday the 13th. Like, no one asked him to. He just did. He didn't write a fan film. He wrote a film that he wants Friday the 13th franchise to do. It's called Jason Never Dies, which is funny because that was the original name for Never Hike Alone 2. It was supposed to go Jason Never Hike Again, Jason Takes Crystal Lake, Jason Never Dies. And then I was sitting down with Tom one day and he was like, oh, I came up with a script for Jason and I wrote it out and it's set in the winter and it's called Jason Never Dies. And I was like, oh shit, I got to change my name. And that's how it became The Final Hike. But so that's the thing. They didn't know how to land comedy. It doesn't have to be uproariously funny, simply amusing. The audience would do the trick. That's what I love about the first couple of films. There's no, like, you know, what's his name? Teddy is a little, Ned is a little bit of a prankster, but that's as far as it goes. You know, Shelly's a little bit of a prankster, but he doesn't, there's not too much Shelly. There's not too much Ned. It's just little blips here and there. And the other characters are just charming and authentic. And that's what this needs to be. I really just want to see charming, authentic characters. And so if you can take the Jason from the back half of the franchise that we all know and love, the one that really grew into like, okay, this is top tier Jason, part 6 Jason, part 7 Jason, from a look and from a demeanor and from a just essence, perfect Jason. And I would say that like Ted White and, Richard Brooker are great, but it's a very simple olden costume. It's not quite there. I think that there's something in between that world. hold on. I think there might be something in between that world. I think there might be a look that kind of gets that. A little bit of old, a little bit of new, but something a little bit different and looks scary as fuck. I think there's a design out there that works. And if you just tap into it, I think it will do some good things. Anyway, back to the comments. In fact, let me come back to the full screen. We don't need to stare at that shit anymore. Bing bong bing. Oh, you know what? I realized, guys, I've been screwing you guys. Hang on a second. Bra, banners, comments, bang. Where is it? Where is it? There's a way. Show comments on page. So if you guys make comments, they're gonna pop up on the bottom now. Hey, Robert the Wolfman's here. What's up, buddy? Good to see you. Let me see. I remember how NHA 3 and NHA 4 were supposed to happen, but didn't because of COVID-19 going around. Well, they did. Never Hike Alone 2 was supposed to be 3 movies. Never Hike Again, which was the first act. Jason Takes Crystal Lake, which was the hospital. And then Never Hike Again, which was them returning to the camp and fighting Jason. Now, there were more scenes. There were more things that we wanted to do per act. But as a movie, we had to pull a lot of those things out. So we had to make a seamless movie that's all stuck together as one movie versus 3 vignettes. You know, would have been 30 minutes a piece probably. Like they would have been like 3 Never Hike in the Snows, like 25-minute sections that would have come out and just like been nice chunks that we could do in a week and then get back to work and that type of stuff. So that's the way that worked. Let me see. Well, exactly. He wrote a film and no one else asked him to. So it's not technically a fan film. No, I mean, it's a spec film is what they would call it. It's a spec. So he wrote it on spec. It's not something that the studio asked him to do. He just wrote something based on, you know, his film, Part 6. It was a sequel to Part 6. Yeah, I mean, that's basically my spiel for the night. Do you guys have any more? Oh, let's see. Here we go. Am I a fan of Hatchet? Yeah, it's fine. I like Hatchet 4. I thought that one was pretty good. I thought the first one's a little long in the tooth in some places, but overall, it's not too bad. Only thing I don't like about 2009, there was some hot. Only thing I like about 2009, there was some hot sex in that movie. I wouldn't mind getting to one of those. But yeah, I mean, that's, you know, if that's what, like, it's like, hey, you know, the movie was great, but it's got great kids in it. You know what I mean? That's not a good thing. That's not a good thing overall for the whole franchise. You know what I mean? Like if you want to do a franchise of films, the best thing in the movie shouldn't just be the boobs. I'm not confident in anything moving forward just because this is a licensing group that's running the show. I'm not sure how much creativity and heart there will be. Well, Jerry, welcome to the show, by the way. And I see you got it right. Be involved moving forward. I will say this. I think that the Barsimians are genuine people. Getting to speak with them at the Jason Universe event or the Sweet Revenge event, and hear them talking about it and being able to just basically talk Friday with them. They're in it. I mean, they've always been there. They've just sort of been the silent partner. The lawsuit sort of forced them to take an upper hand in doing sort of part of these things. There is very much a licensing group approach of trying to get him back on the market because the idea is that they want Jason to become a viable entity in the horror world and reclaim that space. It takes a lot of work now. It's not like it was back in the day where you just release a cool movie and that's all it takes. There's a lot more out there for ways for people to engage. People aren't engaging with films the way they used to engage, especially in the theater. Only a few types of projects bring fans to the theater, and Friday the 13th is definitely one of those things that will bring people back to the theater. So I understand your hesitation because of the phase 1 of all of this being sort of up and down. I think that fans weren't necessarily loving the first things that they saw, but what I can say is that there's certainly a desire to listen to the fans. They're open to change. I mean, Greg Nicotero is already changing the mask a little bit. And you know, they genuinely want to make, I mean, they said it to me, they want to make multiple films. So that's a good thing. That means that they're thinking the right way. They're thinking ahead. They're not getting ahead of themselves. Obviously, you're going to make the first one good. But Lord of the Rings was always going to be 3 movies. They were thinking about the 3rd movie while they were making the first one. They were shooting things together. You know, they were shooting 1 and 2 together. Even Halloween did that. Halloween was shooting 2 movies together, I think, at one point, or they were doing different things like that. So it's smart to think that way. It's smart to do that because when I was making Never Hike Alone, I was making decisions thinking ahead. I was making decisions, Never Hike in the Snow and Never Hike Alone 2, that connected in all sorts of different directions. I was thinking of that. It enhanced the story. It made it a better experience for the fans. And I can say that from my own experience of people telling me things that they like about the movies. They were based on things that were created because I was connecting to the other films, because I was studying the other films in a way that I don't think 2009 did. 2009 just wanted Easter eggs. They didn't want to build things into the story or develop at all. And I know that Shannon and Swift hate my guts because of all the shit that I talk about 2009. I don't have anything against those guys. I just don't think that their script was, I think that they had a good outline, and what it needed was another outside brain to go through and do what I do, which is like, okay, why is the head there? Blah, 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 blah. Okay, let's switch this here. Let's get this. Like, here's what happens. Here's, and kind of work that in. I feel like at a certain point, to their credit, they're pushed out of the equation, and the director takes over and the producers take over, and they're just rushing through production. And I'm sure they wanted to say things and they couldn't. And I'm sure that's kind of part of their frustration, where they take a lot of the blame for this. And I know that they take a lot of ownership over 2009, but I'm not fully putting it on them. Yeah, some of their dialogue's not great, and all that stuff. But, at the end of the day, it's a total group effort. It's a total group effort in everything that went into it. I think that Mark started, I can't say his name. I think he designed a horrible Jason. I think Jason 2009 looks like shit. The fact that he has a 10-foot machete, where does that exist in real life? Where did that girl get that machete at the beginning of the movie? It was like everything was created with like, this is a movie universe, versus like, no, this is a real universe and we're creating a movie around it. We're going to make fantastical things happen. But you have to create some type of grounded reality first. That's a great thing about the original Friday the 13th, is that Jason feels like a grounded character. He feels flesh and blood. He feels like he is of that world. That Jason in that movie did not feel like he was of any world that exists in the real world. He felt like a cartoon character in real life. Heck, even if they do a musical version of Friday the 13th of Freddy versus Jason, I'd watch the shit out of it. That's funny. To be fair, I'm sitting 1 foot away from a Friday the 13th box set, is all of the movies are bad. I mean, they're not all bad. Part 2 is great. Part 1 is great. Part 6 is great. Part 4 is great. I think that there are shining moments in every Friday the 13th film that make it watchable. Every Friday the 13th might not be great, but they're watchable. 2009 is the only one that is like not watchable for me. I can't get through it. I literally can't get through it. It gets to a point where it gets so stupid and it's so frustrating to watch it, because I just see a better movie there and it's just waiting to come up out of the surface, but it never got that chance because no one really put that type of thought into it, which really sucked. Entertainment Wizard says, hey to Alley Girl. Everyone says hello to her. There's a difference between hiding Easter eggs and screaming, "We saw the movies too," to the audience. Exactly. And that's how I felt. I felt like I was being pandered to. I felt like I was being treated like I was an idiot. That's how I felt. The film made me, I was like, this is what they think I am as a fan. This is what they think I want. This is not what I want. This sucks. What Billy Judd said, is Kevin Bacon going to be in the Crystal Lake show? I don't think Billy, but that would be great if they can get him to do a cameo. Ooh, Davey's here. Where is he? There he is. He's howling at the Wolfman. Let me see. Okay, I caught up on those. Are there any other questions? I'm gonna have to get going soon, guys, because I have to drive to New Jersey at 5 a.m. And I still have to pack. Well, all my convention stuff's packed, but I need to pack for another trip that I gotta catch a 5:30 a.m. flight on Sunday. So I have to pack for that trip. So tomorrow it will be New Jersey for 10 a.m. from Massachusetts, back to Massachusetts by 10 p.m. I think by the time I'll get home when the event ends, or 10:30, get some sleep, up at 3:30, drive to the airport for 4, fly out at 5:30, get to my destination at around like noon. So your buddy Vin has a long weekend that's going to protrude into like Tuesday. I fly home Tuesday, and then I'm back to work on Wednesday. But And then I got a lot of couple cool things are coming up. I got a couple cool jobs. I've been doing cam op work. I got some cam. I've been working camera department, which has been really really fun. So I'm happy to be in a department that's not assistant director. I love production design, but cameras where the cool kids are at. So totally stoked to be doing those types of pickups and having those opportunities. So looking forward to that. Remember, we got Ghost Chicken right here. If you haven't, guys, backed the campaign yet, let's do it now. Help me get to 50%. Let's unleash this new page. Let's get this thing over 50%, because I guarantee you, if we get over 50%, we're going to hit our goal. We just need to get over 50% so I can spend the next 2 weeks getting us as close to 100% as possible. And then I know in the final weeks, we can push it over. But if we can get close to that goal now, that just means we can look at stretch goals. We really want to get to the stretch goals. We want those things to happen. We're going to be able to make a better product out of it. And the thing that I'm really trying to hope for is the fact that if we can make some extra money with this, eventually we are going to animate it. But there are some other projects that I have that I would really love to put in graphic novel form. The beginning of the end, The Last Astronaut. What's another one that I wanted to do? There was The Beginning of the End, Last Astronaut, 86th, the Undead Western story. There's we could do Base X, which would be so good. Like, dude, Base X, my sci-fi one, is so fun. It's just, these scripts that I've spent a lot of time and energy on that, are going to take years to get to the theater. To get it in front of you guys in graphic novel form would be great. And it's such an affordable, at the end of the day, we only need a few hundred people that are going to be, getting a $20 book. I mean, I don't know if you guys backed Rip to Shreds, but the books came in, they look beautiful. I can't wait to get my book. That's what we want to do. We want to create this pipeline to you guys, but we need your help. So if you can't back now, that's fine. You know what I mean? It's tough for everybody right now. I get that the economics are kind of tough, but if you guys can take the link, I don't think it's in this description, or it might be in the description. Yeah, I think it's in the description. It should be in the description. Let me see. I'll tell you right now. Oh, I didn't put it in. So anyway, I'll put it in afterwards, but you guys know where the Ghost Chicken, link is. You guys are all there. Please, or if somebody can put it in the chat for me, please share that link this week. You guys help me out. Take the artwork off of the Facebook, take artwork off of Twitter or Instagram, reshare it with links, get it out, share it with your audiences. Let's start spreading the word about Ghost Chicken so we can get this thing funded. And it will take a lot of pressure off my plate to be constantly thinking about this campaign. I really want this thing to hit its goal, and I want it to see the light of day. I love this project. If you got it in you, there's cameos available, for a really good price. You're going to be in the book. You're going to star in the book, or you can get a little cameo in the background. Just be there. We're going to draw it. You're going to make it look just like you. Samuel's work is really, really cool. And it's something you're going to get to keep. So this is a book that you can put in your house. It could be a great coffee table book. I guarantee you, if there's a book called Ghost Chicken on your coffee table, if there's a book called Ghost Chicken on your shelf, when people come over, they're going to pick it up and want to know what's inside, and they're going to read it, and you're going to want to read it. It's a great story. There's a lot of heart to it. There's a lot of great comedy. There's a lot of great drawings and funny stuff that are in it. And I swear to God, when this thing gets animated, you guys are going to love it even more. The jokes, I was thinking about it today. I'm like, oh man, they won't get the jokes with the music and all these other things that are in it. But I'm telling you, you guys are going to love this thing. And oh yes, you will get a follow from Ghost Chicken Alley Girl. I'm still setting up Ghost Chicken on Instagram. So if I haven't followed you yet, or if you haven't followed it yet, at ghost_chicken_official, you'll see the little chicken logo right in it. Definitely give that a follow. We've been posting from there, Womp Stomp, and my personal account to kind of rejigger the algorithm, which, I was posting on Womp Stomp and realizing that anything that wasn't Friday the 13th wasn't getting any traction. So I created Ghost Chicken. So now that's there. You'll probably see a Ghost Chicken Facebook page pop up. You'll probably see a Ghost Chicken. Oh, there's a Ghost Chicken Twitter too, which I need to spend some more time on. But yeah, just more and more social media. I guess this is why we need AI. I need AI to run all my social media for me, but then it would just be telling you guys weird stuff that I wouldn't approve. But guys, thank you. Oh, and then let's just say this real quick. for the ladies in the back. NHS is hand down the best series of Friday the 13th movies. They belong in the canon. I would probably say, oh, Pixel Push. You know what? I recognize that guy. I think I know who that is. Thanks, buddy. Yeah, no, I hope they do get canon one day. That would be nice. But we don't know. Oh, yeah. By the way, guys, if you're a filmmaker, New Bedford Film Festival, submissions are open. We just crossed 100 films submitted for next year's festival, taking place April 7th through 9th. Come out to New Bedford, Massachusetts, everybody. Plan your trips now. Have a good time. Next year, we're doing all short films. We're not going to have any feature films. Every single block is going to feature short films. We are out recruiting for short films right now. So if you're a filmmaker and you have a banging short film that you want to share with us, it doesn't have to be horror. I am putting together an amazing horror block this year, by the way, so you're definitely going to want to check that out. But it can be comedy, it can be drama, it can be a musical, it can be anything. We accept all films. I believe our top length is like 25 minutes. I'd have to check the rules, and no AI. But you guys should definitely submit to that if you haven't. And if you know friends that are filmmakers, if you know filmmakers that are out there, I will be sharing the link around in the next couple of weeks for people to submit their films. So definitely do that. Tyler says, yeah, Ghost Jake and Pooks look pretty rad. Got my pledge in last week. Thank you, Tyler. I appreciate that support. He's Ghost Jason's pet chicken. Yeah, maybe we'll have to get them together. Ghost Chicken looks like so much fun. Can't wait. Thank you, Liana. I really appreciate that. Thank you for stopping by the stream tonight. Let me see. Moy's in the chat. What's up, Moy? What else are you guys doing here? I heard a rumor that Adam Shearer says he's in talks to play Jason in a Friday the 13th film. He's a bit tall, like Ken Krisinger. There's a lot of people that are talking about wanting to play Jason. I will say this. Jason Universe is meeting with people. I know that they're meeting with people. They're going to be meeting with a lot of people. So I think a lot of people are going to be coming out of those meetings being like, I met with Jason Universe. Well, yeah, they've met with Jason Universe, but no decisions have been made. Or at least nothing has been publicly announced about anything yet. So we have to kind of just wait until those things are announced. But, it's good news. No news is good news. And the fact that nothing has been signed yet, there has been nothing going on. So everybody who thinks that like a film has been in development this whole time, the development is who are they choosing and what version are they choosing? Okay. They haven't decided on anything yet. No one has been crowned anything yet. There is this is something that I believe is going to take up most of next year, or it's going to be decided early next year. And that's when the process will really start moving forward. Right now, it's in the discovery process of who is being hired, who is doing what. I think maybe I don't know if the game is further along, but I know that they're talking to a ton of people and there's a lot of people vying for it. So we'll see who ends up getting it. All right, TV show coming next year. That's why no movie is coming next year. Exactly. The TV show is going to hit. It's going to be the thing that, and again, I have to kind of check my brain and the things that I can tell. Let's say that the show is going to be what carries the franchise for a little bit. That makes sense. It's they intend on the series being the focal point, so that can live and breathe and be its own thing and not competing with a movie. And then as that starts to establish itself and get its own momentum, that opens up the space for a movie to then step in and do its own thing. And I don't think they're going to relate to each other all that much. Who are the Barsimians? A rich Nepo family? No, in fact. They're a local Massachusetts family that got their start in events, in film and events. They own theater chains, and so they've been a company, a family that's been involved in the theater and movie business since I believe the 50s, or even maybe before that. It was started by the grandfather, who has since passed on, and so right now it's in charge of his son and the grandson, which are both Robert. So it's Rob and Robbie. And so those are the people that are in charge of it. Sean Cunningham is still a part of Horror Inc., but is not as involved as he used to be. I think he recused himself after the whole lawsuit thing and sort of doesn't want to deal with it anymore. And I don't blame him. I mean, he took a lot of heat over the years. So the Barsimians are stepping in to sort of just get the ship right. And from what I can tell is that they are really sort of like, they know the brand. They've been around the brand. They were on those sets in the 80s. The grandfather was on the sets. The son was on the sets in the 80s. Obviously, the grandson was too young for that. but they really love this franchise and they want to see it succeed. And so knowing that they are not just there because it's, you know, because it's a money-making thing, they have some family pride in it. The Barsimians were the family that invested in Sean Cunningham. They're the ones who gave him that 550 million, holy shit, $550,000 to make the first Friday the 13th. So without the Barsimian family, there is no Friday the 13th. Same thing with Sean Cunningham. Without Sean coming out with the idea, without Victor writing the script, it's a group effort. So they are definitely much a part of that. They were just the silent partners you just didn't hear much about. And now they are at the forefront, kind of taking the lead. And we will see, think about them like the Akkads. You know what I mean? The Akkads for Halloween. That's the way to kind of think about them. Yes, it's being passed through lineage, but it's not necessarily, just pure nepotism here. I got a good vibe about the Barsimians. It's a S, by the way. I see. Well, that sounds better. I wonder why they won. I wonder how they won the bidding war for Friday the 13th. They didn't win the bidding war. They've always owned it. It's not that they won a bidding war. It's that they are the partners in Horror Inc., which is the company that has owned like Horror Inc., Terror Inc., lots of things like that. So it's evolved over the years, but they're always been a part of Friday the 13th. They didn't bid a war. They've just always been a part of it. Now the rights and all of those different things, like New Line owns the rights to Friday the 13th because Paramount owned them and Paramount sold them. And at some point, the Barsimians and Sean Cunningham gave up the rights to Friday the 13th to Paramount at some point where they controlled the rights in that way. Does that make sense? But there's still the license holders behind all the Jason designs and everything that has to do with Friday the 13th part 1 through 8. Okay, here's something that I'm going to say that I don't think has been said publicly, that came from the Barsimians. And this made me jump for joy, which was they're not big fans of the New Line films. They see they're in their heads, Friday the 13th is what they were a part of, which is Friday the 13th, part 1 through 8. So the films that they're going to make are going to be of essence out of the Paramount era. They see like the Paramount era as the golden era of Friday the 13th. And so they're definitely aiming their targets at that. So that is a very good thing to know. And what else can I say about, the things that they talked about? Yeah, like I said, aiming for multi films, aiming to do something that is in the vein of the Paramount era. And that's the type of Jason that they want to bring to the screen. I know that they're thinking about the human stuff. I hope they reconsider that. I know that that's probably the path that they're going for the TV show. The human side of it. That was what was explained to me by someone a while ago. Not necessarily the same story exactly because it was the previous version, but they were definitely dealing with a very much, if you're a fan of Friday the 13th parts 1 through 4, that's the fan that this is for. Which is why I think partly it could struggle, because most of the fans that are alive and kicking today and really loving Friday the 13th are my age and love Undead Jason. And we're sort of the core foundation of the franchise. So I think I'm a purist. I'll enjoy it either way. I'm really interested to see how they pull these facts together, because in my attempts to pull these facts together, I sort of kind of came to the conclusion that like this is sort of a dead end for story. And yeah, that would be a spoiler, so I'm not going to go there. But they have a plan for that. They have a plan for it. If you give $500 to the Ghost Chicken Kickstarter, Vin will spill one fact about the TV series. It has to be, yeah. If you tell me 1,000, I'll tell you something that if someone puts $1,000 in it right now, I will release something about the Brian Fuller version that no one's ever heard before, about how the seasons were going to go. Because I got a full breakdown of that, and I know that it has since changed since now that it's Brad Caleb Kane, so I feel a little bit more comfortable talking about the stuff that Brian was going to do. So if you guys want to know the Brian story, if anyone donates, let me see. Let me pull it up if anyone did already. Ghost Chicken. Oh, I forgot that Ghost Chicken is actually it's a restaurant. Which, guess what, Ghost Chicken? I own the copyright to Ghost Chicken. I don't know what you think. I'm going to sue your ass. No, I'm just kidding. I want to eat at a Ghost Chicken is what it is. There it is. Ghost Chicken, the graphic novel. Now, I know what we went in with. Ooh, we got one backer during the stream. A little bit closer, 3671, 36%. Thank you, everybody. Putting up to 36% is actually a big step. But yeah, if anyone would do that, I would tell, like, honestly, you want to throw 1,000, you want to get that cameo, I'll tell you everything you need to know. But New Line is a subsidiary of Warner Brothers. Won't Part 13 be produced by both? Yes. So New Line is the production company. Warner Brothers is the distribution company. So two different roles, but yes, Warner Brothers, New Line doesn't always distribute with Warner Brothers. You know, they have a good relationship with Warner Brothers. They distribute a lot of the films with Warner Brothers, but they've, gone with Paramount before, the Skydance, different, other entities. But New Line was on the Warner Brothers lot at one point. I don't think they are anymore. But Warner Brothers owns the distribution rights and New Line owns the production rights, and they own the title Friday the 13th. So if a new movie comes out and is going to be called Friday the 13th, it's just going to have to do that. But I don't think New Line is so much, they're not like, we got to get that Jason X2 sequel or we're not doing it. You know what I mean? They're basically like just throwing it in the hands of the Jason universe to be like, you make the movie you want. We make the deal for you guys to use Friday the 13th, and then Warner Brothers puts it in the theater, and that's probably how you're going to see it go. Maybe there's a co-stream with Paramount. I don't know. But we'll see how that all comes together. That's a lot of the stuff that needs to be talked about. You know what I mean? Like, you see how much needs to be talked about there, which is why they're not rushing into it. I wish they would continue the original timeline. I don't want Jason to go to the Michael Myers route and be consistently rebooted. Bro, I feel you. I would love a true sequel to Jason Takes Manhattan, and Never Hike Alone is a sequel to Jason Takes Manhattan. So for anyone to be like, how could they continue the original series? I'm telling you, I did it. Never Hike Alone is the continuation of the original series. We brought back Tommy Jarvis. We continued that storyline as if it picked up right along the way, and wait till you guys see the final cut. Final cut is going to, put that in even more. And you know what? Thank God the movie's not coming out, because by the time we get the final cut done and we get that out, it's going to serve as the perfect template for what a full-length Friday the 13th film could look like. What's cooking for the final cut? New additions? New scene, new introduction. And Tyler, I need your help with that introduction. I have one specific thing for you. And then I want to talk to you about the VFX that we need to start working on, because that's sort of like one of the next steps. I do prefer parts 1 through 4, warts and all. Part 6 is a good fun, though. A proto-Scream movie. The Crawling Chaos. It's 1 through 6 for me, but after 6, they stopped doing connections to the stories beyond oops, Jason got resurrected again. Yeah, that's sort of like oops, I did it again is not the there has to be, I honestly think the next movie has to be about reopening the camp. It has to be about the camp. It has to be set at the camp, and not as like a place that they kind of dip and dap into, but like the entire movie is at the camp. Someone has bought the camp and they're opening it up, and there's something there and they don't know what it is. And there's a legend. They need a Crazy Ralph. That's the other thing 2009 fucked up. They didn't have a Crazy Ralph. They had old woman, he just wants to be left alone, which didn't do anything for anybody. They were just like, let's give someone a job from Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You know what I mean? Versus like, get yourself a new Crazy Ralph, man. You didn't do it. Warner Brothers, I don't think new, actually, Discovery owns them both. How about that? Don't get me started on DDG, Blumhouse. But that's the thing. Like, you have to separate Blumhouse from David Gordon Green and McBride. You know what I mean? Like, Blumhouse was just the producer. They gave, like, Blumhouse could hire the right person and then do the right thing with this. You know what I mean? Like, Blumhouse is just the company that is going to get them the resources that they need to do to make a good movie. And Blumhouse is capable, more than capable, perfectly capable, a shining example of what it means to be capable, to give creators what they need to be successful. Look at The Conjuring, look at Black Phone, look at Insidious, Sinister, and all the other films that have rolled out that have been, Paranormal Activity, all of those things. They give the films what they need, but they also give the films what they, it's they give them enough rope to either win the day or hang themselves. You know what I mean? Like, but at the end of the day, they give them what they need. I do believe that part 1 through 4 can be remade into 1 to 2 quality movies that connect well. Dude, I have like, oh my God, I hope I get to pitch to them one day. I have the best 1-2 punch of the first 2 movies, like already penned out. Like, I got it all the way through. And it would be the best 1-2-hander to get the thing started. And then it opens this door up for part 3 that is something that we've never seen before. So you establish very much in a world that we will understand and relate to, and then we'll watch it evolve into something really cool that's never been done before. And then it opens the door back up to sort of not oops, I did it again, but come up with different scenarios for where Jason goes from there. And I would say my advice would be do a trilogy and then start doing one-offs. Start doing sort of like, do Jason X2 or do something else. I think that would, not to say that that's the exact way, but I think that you would do something that's a little bit more like, okay, so you no longer have to kind of focus on building a trilogy story, like just set him in his own, like basically go from Showa Godzilla to Heisei Godzilla. Oh no, go from Heisei Godzilla to Millennial Godzilla. You know what I mean? It's not one continuous storyline like Heisei was. If I'm saying that wrong, I'm sorry, Japanese people. And then Millennium was, every time they did it, it was its own thing. And I think if they go to the Millennium route, Millennium Godzilla, is that if they go and it's their own thing, they have to find very bold, distinctive directors to do each one of those films. Like, you'd have Tarantino do one and, Damien Leone do another. I think in it's like, it's in the post trilogy world after the story has been established that you would give it to somebody like a Leone when, let's face it, by the time you get to movies 4, 5, and 6, it's starting to go. It's the Fast and the Furious effect. You know what I mean? Now we're starting to get silly. We're shooting, we're doing all these different things. That's the time to give it to somebody like that. That's when Mike P. Nelson can come down the line and do his rendition of Sweet Revenge, the feature film. But until then, you need to keep people like that away from the real story hounds that could get in there and really pen together a true blue trilogy that will, basically put Friday on top for 6 years. Look at the way Halloween was treated from Halloween 2018 all the way through Halloween Ends. And what was like 2022, like Halloween dominated everything. And that's all I want to see out of Friday the 13th. I just want to see it dominate again. I want to see it return to glory. I wanted to see it on the top of Slasher Mountain. And I know it can get there. 3 good movies making 150 million to 200 million a piece. It's back in the top 20. It's back in the top 10. It's back in the top 5. It's at, I think, 456 million right now. And if they, and right now the biggest one is, I think, almost at $1 billion. And I think it's The Conjuring or it's Saw. It's one of those two. But it's a lot. It's a lot to make up for. Ryan Johnson does The Last Jedi of the Friday. Dude, I'll take it. I'll take it. I just hope Jason Universe isn't associated with New Line's new Friday the 13th or the production. Don't worry about that. I wouldn't worry about any of that stuff. New Line is only going to be attached because they own the name. They're going to give them the name, and JU is going to figure out who is doing the rest of the work. Yeah, no, I honestly, like, if that new Friday the 13th doesn't open up with a classic Paramount logo, they're not thinking, they're not doing it right. You can start with Jason in the first movie, then have the second be a flashback to Pamela killing, then the last with Jason. I would definitely have Jason in all 3 movies, but I would definitely spend some time crafting a Pamela through line that would really make it all make sense, I guess you could say. I understand what they're doing. But anyway, guys, I'm definitely running out of steam now. I can't believe I've been going for an hour and change, but that's what happens when you get me talking about Friday the 13th. I will be back, not next Friday. Or will I be back next Friday? No, maybe I will be back next Friday. Because I don't have anything crazy going on. I might have my class. But I think it would be good. I think while we're doing Ghost Chicken, it's always going to be good to kind of check in. I will have more updates next week. Actually, too, there's going to be some new stuff coming in. Oh yeah, shipping is coming along. I didn't do much in the last week because I've been very busy. So we're from 88 to 85 packages now. But in about a week, we're going to go from 85 packages to we're going to go to probably 50 packages. So by next weekend, it will be down to 50 packages. And then once I was told the hockey masks are going to land probably the first week of November, second week in November in batches of 10. And so at that point, we're just going to do 10 shipments a week. And after 5 weeks, everyone will be fulfilled and we'll be able to officially close the Never Hike Alone 2 campaign 3 years later. So thank you for everybody who's waited for that, by the way. I really do appreciate that. I got one more. I feel like Never Hike Alone really works well after Freddy versus Jason, since Never Hike Alone ends with Jason at the bottom of Crystal Lake, which explains him being frozen during Jason X. Thanks, Vi. Yeah, I think it fits in a lot of different places. And maybe one day will be kind of canon, but we'll see. Oh my God. Thank you so much, Liana Hahn. Oh, there it is, 67. We're up to 3731. That is amazing. Thank you so much. 37% in one night. Not 37% in one night, but we got up to 37% tonight, which is great. Liana, thank you so much. The figures are almost done, by the way. The animated figures. The animated figures are almost done. I actually saw one of the painted ones. So on the next update next week, I will have updated that. I'll have an updated picture of that. So definitely keep an eye out for that, and I'll get that to you ASAP, so that way you have it by holiday season. Because a lot of that stuff's not going to ship till next year, but I'll get you your stuff. So bing, bang, boom. You guys have a wonderful weekend. Stay safe. Treat each other well. And until next time, I will see you all on the trails. You guys have a good one.